Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the South Florida Water Management District Rule Development Workshop for ERP Applicants Handbook Volume 2. My name is Jess Markle. I'm a Bureau Chief here at the district, and I'm joined this morning by Emily Johnson, one of our attorneys in the Office of Counsel. We're here today to talk about revisions that the district will be making to its Applicants Handbook Volume 2, subsequent to Senate Bill 712 or the Clean Waterways Act. In June of 2020, the act was signed into law. It directed, amongst other things, the DEP and the water management districts to update its stormwater design and operation regulations under Chapter 373 of Florida statutes. On November 19th of 2020, DEP published their Notice of Rule Development, and the district followed suit in December of the same year. Our proposed amendments to the Volume 2 include deleting criteria and updating references to conform to DEP's amendments to Volume 1. Today's workshop will focus only on the changes to Volume 2 that the Water Management District is moving forward with. At this point, I'll step through each of the changes that we propose in our Volume 2. Now, I'm going to focus only on the substantive changes. We did make some clarifying changes, caught some grammatical errors, typos, that type of thing. But for the purpose of this workshop, we're going to focus on those things that have real substance as changes. We'll start with Part 2, General Criteria, the definitions that are reflected in that section. Many of these definitions have become duplicative with definitions that are in Volume 1 and have such been stricken. For instance, the definition of agency, department, and detention. We have added a definition for CSM, or cubic feet per second per square mile, which is a reference to a type of discharge measurement. Impervious and retention are likewise redundant with definitions in Volume 1, so we've chosen to remove them from Volume 2. Staff report as a term of art has really fallen by the wayside. Here at the Water Management District, we do things in terms of permit, so we've stricken that definition. State water quality standards is defined in Volume 1, as is surface water management system or system. Moving forward to Section 3 is where we see one of our first revisions with regard to technical criteria. This section under minimum drainage discusses the water quality requirement for pre-treatment for commercial industrial projects that will be subdivided for sale, where previously it had a requirement of a ½ inch of retention in the master system. We've revised that to be consistent with Volume 1 to require 40% of the treatment volume as required by that Volume 1 to be within a retention system. Moving forward to Section 4 is where we see a lot of our wholesale deletions of sections as they have become redundant with Volume 1 and the new methodology that is proposed. The first is direct discharges to outstanding Florida waters. That is being addressed in Applicants Handbook Volume 1. And then the need for volumetric requirements has gone away since we are changing our water quality perspective statewide. So Section 4.1 will be deleted in its entirety. Land use and coverage criteria, where before we had a requirement for a certain amount of dry pre-treatment for commercial and industrial zone projects. Now that we are moving away from a volume approach, that has been revised to read a minimum of 20% of the volume as required by Volume 1 will be provided in a dry type of system. Likewise, projects having greater than 40% impervious area will have a certain percentage of the treatment being provided in a retention BMP. In the calculation of water quality, the elimination of roofed areas and water surfaces from that calculation becomes moot, as those things are addressed in the new methodology proposed in Applicant's Handbook Volume 1. Part 5 of Applicant's Handbook Volume 2 sees some additional changes. First, with the discussion of control devices and bleed down mechanisms, where before the criteria were defined in terms of a certain volume of detention being released in 24 hours. That has been changed to 13.5 cubic feet per second per square mile, which is equivalent to a ½ inch of volume. Likewise, for pump devices, the maximum discharge there will be 13.5 CSM, as opposed to 20% of the detention volume in one day. In our discussion of wet retention, detention area dimensional criteria, now we have a definition of depth that indicates the minimum depth is necessary to meet the permanent pool volume criteria in Applicant's Handbook Volume 1. Likewise, discussion of littoral areas. We have changed the vernacular to littoral zone to be consistent with Applicant's Handbook Volume 1, and added a reference that in order to achieve a water quality credit as a BMP, a littoral zone has to be no less than 20% of the wet detention area that is proposed. In our section that discusses rainfall, we have added the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, Atlas 14 Volume 9, version 2.0 as a source of rainfall data that can be used in the design of water management systems within the district. In our discussion of storage, primarily soil storage, we have elaborated on the table that was previously there per our current practice with an appendix that we'll get to here momentarily that provides a greater definition of storage as a function of depth of water table in different soil types. Our inspection and maintenance criteria has been slightly revised to be consistent with Volume 1. And though that handbook will govern with respect to the inspection and maintenance of stormwater management systems, those requirements will also supplement the requirements we have for above ground impoundments as indicated in Appendix B of our Volume 2. And with that, I will move into the appendices and highlight the changes that have been made there. There have been some wholesale deletions. Previously, Appendix E to the handbook dealt with our impaired water body criteria. That appendix has been completely revised because those rules are now incorporated into Volume 1. Instead, Appendix E has become the discussion of soil storage values that I mentioned previously. Likewise, Appendix D that had previously been a map of cumulative impact assessment basins, that has been deleted and replaced with an appendix that better discusses our exfiltration system trench design criteria The previous appendix, that cumulative impact map, is redundant as it is already in volume 1. Within the above ground impoundment appendix, we have made references back to section 8.4.5 and appendix L of applicant's handbook volume 1. These are sections that are proposed to discuss dam safety, and we needed to be consistent with those requirements. So in no way will the requirements appendix B supersede or replace what is referenced in applicant's handbook volume 1. We have also, to create some more parallel with volume 1, appendix L, we have provided a little more in the way of a definition. Major impoundments are to be considered high hazard potential dams. Minor impoundments can be significant or low hazard based on how those latter two terms are described in volume 1. Appendix D, this is the map that is being removed. Again, it is already present in applicant's handbook volume 1. And instead we are moving a discussion of exfiltration trench into its place. This better defines the criteria that the Water Management District uses in evaluating exfiltration trenches. Provides the governing equation written in terms of the water quality volume as defined in volume 1. And then provides a derivation of that formula in an effort to provide some clarity to design professionals and regulators alike. Appendix E is soil storage. This is where we have taken a guidance document, and because of the practice of using it for design, made it an appendix to the handbook. It breaks out the different values for our 3 generic soil types we see here in the Water Management District, those being coastal, flatwoods, and depression. And again, it replaces what was the impaired water rule, as all the criteria and the intent of the impaired water rule is now reflected in volume 1. Now, our next steps will be as follows. Subsequent to this meeting today, our comment period will close on January 31st. On March 9th, we will seek our governing board's approval of our notice of proposed rule. Pending that approval, on March 17th, we will publish that notice. And then our effective date will be upon the date that DEP's amendments to 62-330 Administrative Code and Volume 1 become effective. At this time, we'd like to open the floor to public comment, and we're going to do so in the following order. We're going to take any comments posted in the Zoom Q&A. Staff will read your comment, and then we'll provide a response. If we cannot provide a response immediately, we will certainly take note and provide one as soon as we can. Following the Q&A, we'll go to the Zoom audio. Please use the raise hand feature so our moderator knows to call on you. And then if you've joined us by telephone, but not through the Zoom application, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute once you are called on. You will be the third in line to provide comments. When you make comment, however you choose to do that, please identify yourself and the group, company, or agency with which you're affiliated so that we can take note of that as well. And with that, do we have any comments?
At this time, we have no comments or questions.
Right. At this time, no questions or comments. We'll go ahead and give a couple more minutes for any folks that are working things out. I will point out some basic contact information. For any questions you might have about the proposed rule changes to Volume 1, please direct those to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. They have set up an email address for those. It is stormwater2020@floridadep.gov. Any questions you may have after we conclude this workshop can be directed to me. That's my email address, jmarkle@sfwmd.gov. Has anybody offered any comments in the meantime?
At this time.
All right. Well, those of you that were able to join us, thank you so much. If you come across any comments after you've pondered this presentation, please reach out. But at this time, I will conclude the workshop.
Actually, we now have a comment from Dan Hartley with Peninsula Engineering. Note, CSM is defined as cubic feet per square mile in section 2 and 5.1A1. Should it be cubic feet per second per square mile?
Yeah, Dan, thank you for pointing that out. I caught that as well as I was moving through the presentation. We will certainly update that. You are correct. It should be defined as cubic feet per second per square mile. Have we any other comments?
There are no other comments.
Thank you so much. So with that, we will conclude. Thank you all for your time this morning.